The Overseas Koreans Agency opened its doors today, hoping to become a support hub for 7.5 million overseas Koreans. Also open was an upgraded Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs to better serve and respect the nation's heroes and patriots. Diversifying exports and markets while front-loading the services sector and K-content. That's what the government rolled out today to keep the economy afloat amid declining exports. And 22-year-old young Korean baritone Taehan sits on top at the Queen Elisabeth competition in Brussels. This is no usual achievement for an Asian male classical vocalist, and we hear from this young musician on what he has to say. It's June 5th, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-bin. A one-stop center for overseas Koreans opened on this Monday, headquartered in the city of Incheon, hoping to provide better governmental support for roughly 7.5 million Koreans living overseas. At the launching ceremony, President Yoon vowed for better care, better service. Our top office correspondent Oh Soo-young has our top story.
South Korea has opened a centralized body to support overseas nationals, offering various governmental services from a single hub. On Monday, the Overseas Korean Agency was launched in the western port city of Incheon, some 30 kilometers west of Seoul, with a branch office in central Seoul opening as a walk-in center. The agency's key services include registering and issuing records on citizenship, immigration, military records and family certificates, among other civil registry proceedings, which were previously handled by separate government departments, making the bureaucratic process complicated for overseas nationals. The new agency plans to broaden the range of services to health insurance, pensions, education, visas and customs in the future. A telephone hotline was also launched the same day to provide basic consultations 24 hours a day all year round in 5 languages. By better supporting the lives of South Koreans abroad, President Yoon at the opening ceremony said the agency can be a bridge for the country and its overseas nationals to grow and prosper together. Particularly from the multicultural port city of Incheon, which hosts over a dozen international organizations, the president said the agency will help South Koreans become more established in the global community. No one is to be left behind.
다문화 가정 동포, 해외 입양 동포, 또 국내 체류 동포와 같이 전담기구의 부재로 정책의 사각지대에 놓여 있던 동포들도 적극적으로 포용될 것입니다. 강인한 도전 정신으로 어려운 여건을 극복하고 해외에 자리 잡으신 동포 여러분은 세계로 뻗어가는 대한민국의 소중한 역외 네트워크입니다.
In particular, the president mentioned the ethnic Korean victims of the 1945 atomic bomb in Hiroshima, Japan, and invited the survivors to visit South Korea, saying it's the duty of the nation to care for its people wherever they are in the world. As one of Yoon's electoral campaign promises, the agency was established under a revision to the Government Organization Act in March. Going forward, Yoon pledged to create more educational programs and exchanges so that Koreans abroad can take pride in their identity and further elevate the country's standing as South Korea continues to rise as a champion of liberal democracy, freedom and human rights in the world. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Also officially launched today was the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, a boost in status from sub-ministry to full-fledged ministry level here in the country. This marks the first status upgrade since the sub-ministry level unit was launched more than 6 decades ago. In light of this shift, Park Min-shik, who had been heading the unit since May 2022, took office as the first Veterans Minister under the Yoon administration. In his inauguration speech at the Sejong government complex, Park said he is determined to make South Korea a place where those who have dedicated themselves to the country are respected. The minister began his official duties by visiting the Jeju National Cemetery to pay his respects to the country's patriots, pledging to promote policies that honor selfless sacrifices. In Singapore, Defense Minister Lee Jong-seop and his Japanese counterpart Yatsukazu Hamada met on the margins of the Shangri-La dialogue on Sunday. They agreed to launch working-level talks on efforts to prevent potential clashes between their military crafts, especially in light of a tense encounter back in December 2018. Seoul alleged a Japanese military surveillance aircraft flew at an unusually low altitude over its Navy destroyer, while Tokyo accused the South Korean warship of locking its fire control radar on the plane. Separately, the two defense officials were joined by U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin on Saturday for talks that agreed on the launch of a joint real-time data warning system of North Korean missiles. Meanwhile, here in South Korea, efforts continue to locate and bring to land the debris of North Korea's failed rocket mission that plunged into the West Sea last week. Han Sung reports.
Monday marks the 6th day that South Korea's military has been working to search and salvage the wreckage of a North Korean rocket that crashed into the West Sea last Wednesday, following an abnormal flight. The Navy is trying to pull up a 15-meter-long part of the Cheolima-1, which was carrying a military reconnaissance satellite. Once it is retrieved, the wreckage will be jointly examined by South Korea and the United States. According to officials, deep-sea divers made progress in fastening high-strength ropes to the debris on the seafloor, 75 meters below the surface. But the divers had to suspend their work on Sunday due to poor visibility and other unfavorable conditions. Their efforts that day came after regime leader Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, released a statement lambasting last week's meeting of the United Nations Security Council on the North's failed launch as the most unfair and biased act of interfering in internal affairs. Arguing it infringed on what she called a sovereign state's right to space development, Kim said the meeting ought to be regarded as an insult to and serious distortion of the spirit of the UN Charter. Her displeasure was accompanied by North Korean criticism of the International Maritime Organization's recent adoption of its first-ever resolution condemning North Korean missile launches as a serious threat to the safety of international navigation. An article carried by the North Korean Central News Agency claimed the IMO had been reduced to a politicized tool under the White House's control, and even hinted that the regime may not notify the organization of future launches, saying the IMO's resolution will be regarded as an official manifestation that the North's advance notice is no longer necessary. Pyongyang's threats come amid reports of new activity at the main launch pad of the Seohae Satellite Launching Station in Dongchangri, located about 3 kilometers from the new coastal launch pad where Wednesday's launch took place. Citing satellite imagery from Planet Labs, the Voice of America reported on Monday the movement of key equipment at the facility, raising the possibility the regime could soon make a second attempt at putting a spy satellite into orbit. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
In other news, the country is turning its focus towards service exports amid sagging exports. Unveiled today was a billions of dollars of financial support plan for ICT, healthcare, and content productions to bolster their competitiveness. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young with more.
The government is rolling up its sleeves to find ways to boost exports from the country's services sector. During a task force meeting led by the Finance Ministry on Monday, the government decided to offer export financing of 64 trillion Korean won, or roughly $49 billion through 2027. Despite rapid growth in the global services trade, Seoul is experiencing stagnation in its exports from this sector, continuously recording a trade deficit that is not contributing to overall economic growth. In fact, its share in the country's exports has remained stagnant at around 15% for the past 30 years.
We plan to boost services industry exports, which have high added value and create jobs, from $130 billion last year to $200 billion by 2027, and become the world's 10th largest exporter in this sector.
Under the plan, $49 billion worth of financing will be injected into key services industries, including ICT, healthcare, and entertainment content. In particular, the decline in South Korea's ICT exports has continued due to the ongoing trade disputes between the U.S. and China and the global economic slowdown. It is predicted to continue until the third quarter of this year on sluggish semiconductor exports, which account for more than half of ICT shipments. In response to this, the Ministry of Science and ICT announced during the meeting strategies to adapt to the paradigm shift in ICT exports, where software now plays a significant role. Under the plan, it will diversify export items to AI services, the metaverse, blockchain software, and 5G networks. The government will also focus on expanding bilateral economic and trade cooperation with emerging markets in the Middle East and Southeast Asia from the current Chinese and U.S. markets. It plans to hold high-level consultations with the UAE and Saudi Arabia on digital technology and establish an overseas IT cooperation center in the Emirates next year, which will serve as a hub for ICT exports to the Middle East. Meanwhile, the government plans to announce an innovation strategy for the services sector, aiming to enhance its competitiveness in the second half of the year. 신하영, Arirang News.
And another key pillar of boosting exports centered around the power of culture and inbound tourism on the back of eased COVID restrictions and popularity of K-pop, K-drama series, and games. Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
The South Korean government is bolstering its support for inbound tourism and export of cultural content. At a conference headed by Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho on Monday, the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism announced it will be investing roughly $765 million by 2024 to boost cultural exports and tourism to the country. In terms of cultural content exports, the ministry unveiled its vision to place South Korea among the top 4 countries in the world. Exports of cultural content have consistently been in the black, increasing in value every year since 2017 despite the global economic slowdown. In 2021, they amounted to over $12 billion, and the government aims to raise this to $25 billion by 2027. To achieve this, support for the gaming sector, which accounted for nearly 70% of exported cultural content in 2021, will be strengthened. Around 50 small gaming firms will receive financial assistance to support their businesses by next year. Initiatives will also be introduced to help local companies enter new global markets, such as setting up booths at game shows in emerging gaming hotspots in the Middle East. The government further plans to boost cultural content, including films, dramas, and K-pop, by establishing a talent sharing pool and communication channels with the United States, following Netflix's commitment to invest $2.5 billion in South Korean content in April. In terms of tourism, the ministry announced it aims to increase the number of foreign tourists from 17.5 million recorded in 2019 to 30 million by 2027. The first quarter of the year saw a slow return to normal tourism levels, hitting just under 45% of pre-pandemic numbers with 1.7 million tourists between January and March. The ministry will be investing a maximum of around $76,000 to create special tourist zones to reflect the different countries from which visitors come from around the world and foster more than 15 new cultural events such as exhibitions. Tourists visiting South Korea will also be able to enjoy new benefits while shopping, with a post-tax exemption being lowered from a minimum transaction amount of 30,000 won, or roughly $23, to half that amount. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Oil prices rose on Monday after Saudi Arabia has said it would cut oil output by another 1 million barrels per day for at least a month starting in July. The country's energy ministry said Sunday that output would drop to 9 million barrels per day from 10 million in May, the biggest reduction in years. Following this, Brent crude futures were up 1.4% at $77.21 a barrel after hitting a session high of over $78 during early Asia trade. Saudi's voluntary cut is on top of a broader deal by the OPEC and their allies, including Russia, to limit supply into 2024 as the group seeks to boost flagging oil prices. The group, known as OPEC Plus, pumps around 40% of the world's crude oil. In Belgium, Korean baritone Taehan brings home this year's highest honor at the renowned Queen Elisabeth competition. Now, this is the first time that an Asian male singer has claimed this prestigious praise. Our Kim Jong-sil shares his singing and more.
Taehan's performance captivated the audience and the judges. The South Korean baritone made history on Sunday when he became the first Asian male to win the top prize at the Queen Elisabeth competition in Brussels. He performed My Yearning, My Obsession from Erich Wolfgang Koringor's opera The Dead City as part of his performance in one of the capitals of classical music. The 22-year-old, the youngest contender this year, claimed the top prize amid fierce competition between 12 singers from all over the world. The Queen Elizabeth competition is held every year in Brussels and rotates between 4 categories: piano, cello, voice, and violin. Last year, South Korea's Choi Ha-young won the award for her cello performance, making 2023 the second consecutive year that a South Korean artist has claimed the top place in the competition. Taehan began his singing career when he was in 3rd year of middle school. After graduating top of his class from Seoul National University, he's currently taking a studio course at the Korea National Opera. And he told Arirang News what he thinks of his win.
I always introduce myself as a lucky person. I believe if I stay positive and think positively, good luck may follow. I don't think it's just my voice that won me this world-class prestigious award. I'm thankful for all my good luck and want to stay humble and continue to work hard.
Kim's currently still in Belgium preparing for the winner's concert and will return to South Korea following that. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
On the international front, Russian military authorities claim Ukraine has launched its counteroffensive with little success. These comments, however, have yet to be confirmed. Choi Soo-hyun has details.
Russia insists that Ukraine has started its highly anticipated counteroffensive but has failed to make any progress. The Russian Defense Ministry stated on Monday that Ukraine launched the offensive in southern Donetsk on Sunday, deploying 6 mechanized battalions and 2 tank battalions. However, it claims the attack was successfully repelled. These announcements have not been confirmed and Ukraine has yet to make any official statement. President Zelensky stated that Kyiv would wait for additional military support from Western allies, including Western tanks, before launching a counter-offensive. During his interview with the Wall Street Journal on Saturday 3rd, he said that Ukraine was ready for counter-offensive and strongly believed that they would succeed against Russia. Previously, on June 2nd, Moscow declared victory in Bakhmut in what has been the longest and bloodiest battle since the start of the war. Ukraine, though, claims Russia doesn't control the entire city. Officials said Bakhmut has become a symbolically significant area rather than holding strategic value. On the morning of Monday the 5th, there was a drone attack on an energy facility in the western Russian region of Belgorod near the Ukrainian border. The region has also seen guerrilla warfare from pro-Ukrainian Russian militia. Belgorod has been used as a military base by the Russian army to invade Ukraine. Jeju, Arirang News.
Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sport. Joining us in the studio is our sports editor, Paul Need. Evening, Paul.
Hello there.
So let's begin with the Under-20 World Cup in Argentina. South Korea's journey continues.
Yes, it does indeed. South Korea on Sunday beat Nigeria 1-0 to advance to the semi-finals. At the Estadio Único Diego Armando Maradona in the early hours of Monday morning Korea time, the Young Ticket Warriors booked their place in the Final Four. Choi Seok-hyun bagged the game's only goal in the 5th minute of extra time after the two sides ended the 90 all square. It was a glancing header from Choi, who turned in a Lee Sung-won corner. South Korea will now face Italy on Friday at 6 a.m. Korea time. Italy beat Colombia 3-1 in their quarter-final, and the other semi-final is Uruguay versus Israel.
And sticking with football, I heard Kim Min-jae enjoyed a successful first season in Italy. Why is that?
Well, he's been named as the Serie A Defender of the Year. Actually, he's the first Asian player to win that award as well. He also was named in the Serie A Best 11. Kim helped guide Napoli to a first Serie A title in 33 years in what was his first season in Italy. He made 35 appearances for the club this season in the league, scoring 2 and assisting 2. And speaking of winning trophies in Europe, Oh Hyun-gyu won his 3rd of the season. And Celtic on Saturday at Hampden Park in Glasgow lifted the Scottish FA Cup following a 3-1 win over Inverness Caledonian Thistle. Or came off the bench in the 59th minute with the score at 1-0 and was involved in the build-up in Celtic's 2nd and 3rd goals. Celtic have won the SPL title and Scottish League Cup already this season. Or joined from Suwon Blue Wings in January and has gone on to score 7 goals in 21 appearances in all competitions. Both Kim and Oh are in the Korean national team squad for the upcoming friendlies with Peru on June 16th and El Salvador on June 20th. 3 players are getting their first call-ups though. Jeju United wing-back An Hyun-bom, KAA Ghent midfielder Hong Yeon-sok and Ulsan midfielder Park Young-woo.
And K-League has set a new attendance record. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, on Sunday, the top division, K-League 1, surpassed 1 million spectators in a record 96 games. That's the fewest matches in a single season since the league adopted promotion and relegation in 2013. The previous record from 2013 saw the 1 million mark passed in 108 matches. Over 25,000 fans watching 2 games on Sunday was enough to beat the record.
And finally to golf, a solid showing from Kim Soo on the PGA Tour.
Yes, that's right. He finished 4th at the Memorial Tournament hosted by Jack Nicklaus in Ohio. This was his 2nd top 5 finish from his past 4 starts. He finished 5 under par, 283, just 2 strokes behind Norwegian Victor Hovland and American Denny McCarthy, who both went on into a playoff to decide the winner. McCarthy eventually picked up the win. Only one South Korean player has won the tournament, that being Choi Kyung-ju in 2007.
All righty, Paul. Thanks for the wrap-up. See you next week.
Thank you. See you.
For tomorrow, which is Memorial Day here in South Korea, most regions will see clear skies. For Seoul, the intense heat will take a brief respite with highs reaching 25 degrees Celsius. But for eastern regions, where there is a high-pressure system, summer-like conditions will prevail. For Gangneung and Gangwon-do province, highs will be topping out at 30 degrees. Unstable atmospheric conditions will be dropping showers for the south of the country until the morning hours. Jeju Island will see heavy rainfall of up to 60 millimeters. The south coast will see light raindrops coming and going. For those driving, please be extra careful out on the roads. They will be slippery. The entire nation will see strong UV radiation for tomorrow daytime. Ozone levels will be very strong as well nationwide. To avoid any skin aggravation, make sure to wear plenty of sunblock before you head out. For tomorrow, Seoul and Daegu will be starting off at 17 degrees. Highs in Seoul will get up to 25, Daejeon and Gwangju 28, Busan will be reaching 24 degrees. On Wednesday, sweltering conditions will make a return. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session is next.